What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Well, next week in Hollywood, that is, unless you're from Orlando, then this week is the opening week of Halloween Horror Nights. But in Hollywood, that's next week. And I thought, what better way to celebrate the opening weeks of Halloween Horror Nights than to kick off Halloween Horror Nights week here on the channel, something we do every single year on the channel. And we have a great lineup of videos for you all week long. We have, of course, this one kicking it off. We're going to talk about the history of Blumhouse at Halloween Horror Nights, because they have an extensive history at Halloween Horror Nights. And then tomorrow, we're going to do a little know before you go to the Hollywood event, that is. So anything that it's in that know before you go will be due to the Hollywood event. Ow, I hit my elbow. That hurt. Then after that, we're going to have our game plan. This is going to be a very interesting game plan this year, especially because I have two that I kind of have mapped out depending on what fan you are. So stay tuned for that. And then Thursday and Friday is going to be our hype list for scare zones, shows, and houses, and Terror Tram, obviously. So stay tuned. We got a full week of content here on the Nights of Horror. So let's kick it off with the history of Blumhouse at Halloween Horror Nights in Hollywood. Our journey begins here in 2013. For those that have been going to the event for some time, you guys will know this one. It all started with the two properties coming to Halloween Horror Nights. One would be in the form of a scare zone. The other would be in the form of a walkthrough attraction haunted house. First one, Insidious Into the Further, would be the haunted house. And of course, The Purge Survive the Night would be the overall theme and scare zone for the event. This was the first year that Purge would attend the event, so I was super stoked to see this. Purge had become a huge thing at that point, and I think that's one of the movies, and Insidious, of course, that put Blumhouse on the map, of course, on top of Paranormal Activity, that is. But those two, Insidious and The Purge, those franchises, I think, really helped put a staple into what we know as Blumhouse today. Seeing those come to the event was really cool. Insidious always scared me. It took us through, I believe, the first film, and then they would come back again in 2 more years to do the second film, and I believe the third film as well would come back later. But they've done, I think, just about every Insidious adaptation that they've had, and we'll get through that as we go through the years. But 2013 was that debut year for Blumhouse, and this would easily start and spark a long-lasting relationship that we've seen within the last 11 years of Halloween Horror Nights. So this is going to be fun, so strap in because we're just getting started. Now let's go to 2014, where we would just have The Purge Anarchy be the scare zone and the opening ceremony for the event. The Purge would go on to stay for a few years. Prior to that was The Walking Dead. Walking Dead was still doing houses at that point, but as far as scare zones, it would then go turn over to The Purge. The Purge, I think, for a while was a lot of fun, and I think really fit the vibe of Halloween Horror Nights. When I would go, especially the opening ceremony, I think was just so fun and cool to watch, especially if you were a fan of, those films and how they start The Purge and everything, like the siren going off. It really got you hyped with the Halloween Horror Nights setting. So every single year, seeing The Purge kick off the opening ceremony was always a blast. We'd come to 2015 with the return of not only The Purge, but Insidious, with Insidious Return to the Further. This would go, of course, further into the films with, I think, number 2, and I believe number 3. So they had demons from, I think it was 1 and 2. So they had demons from both of the films and everything, and you really explored the further in this one. This one was a lot of fun. Very scary maze. And all the Insidious mazes, in my opinion, there's aspects and elements of every one that I really like, that they've done a great job of thus far. But I said The Purge would be returning that year, and we had 2 Purge experiences. The Purge Urban Nightmare, which was, of course, the scare zone again, and The Purge Terror Tram Survive the Purge, which was a really cool concept of going to this like purge party, or so you thought. It was a setup to bring us, the victims, to walk through the sets of the Terror Tram, and we were going to be purged for a bunch of rich snobs. So it was a lot of fun. That was the first year the Purge would then take over the Terror Tram, and Blumhouse would be the first year Blumhouse as a company would have representation taken over the Terror Tram. And the reason I say that is because we have, for this year, obviously, the Terror Tram is Blumhouse, and they're celebrating their 15th anniversary, I think, as a horror movie company. So that is incredible to see that 15-year legacy celebrated on the Terror Tram this year. So cannot wait for that. Now we're going to go to what I think was easily one of the best years of Halloween Horror Nights, which was 2016. But this year's looking pretty stacked, so we'll see. But 2016, by far, best year. This would be, of course, Purge election year. And it was just featured as a scare zone this year. But I think a lot of it was really cool because of the stilt walkers with the Statue of Liberty and all the infamous characters. And I believe they would have the Gauntlet. Yeah, this was the surprise year that they would have the Gauntlet of Fear that was in the Parisian courtyard. And really, it was kind of like a surprise maze, because I remember we showed up that night and didn't know anything about that. We would follow all the announcements and everything, and to walk through and see that was incredible. I really thought that was a cool little surprise, and that is where I would first meet and see Star, who is been on the channel before, is a good friend of the channel, a good friend of mine now, and that was when I first became a fan of hers, and now we're really good friends. So it's just amazing how much people that you get to meet in this community. Insidious would return in 2017, but it wouldn't come alone, because Blumhouse would take it a step further and not just do one individual property, but they would do a plethora of properties in one maze. That was the first year we got the first Horrors of Blumhouse, in my opinion, probably the best Horrors of Blumhouse that they've put on, with, of course, The Purge outside, and then you would go to this abandoned theater, and it had two movies playing. You had Happy Death Day, and you had Sinister. Really, really great design. I love the concept of it, of going from like movie to movie, and you were walking in the theater, like in the screen, and you would go to the next movie. You would see scenes from Happy Death Day. You would see scenes from Sinister. And then, of course, there was like a little mini experience outside that was supposed to be like the real world, and the Purge was going on. So I thought that was really cool. And at the end, you had, of course, Big Daddy from Purge Anarchy with his gun shooting you on the way out. I remember that year was really cool for me because we saw and met Jason Blum. We saw Frank Grillo, who is doing amazing as Rick Flag Sr. right now. But he's been, of course, the star of those Purge movies as well. And, of course, Crossbones in the Captain America series. We saw the entire cast of Happy Death Day that day. And it was by luck, because we went on opening day and we happened to go through when they all went through. So it was really cool. We saw them all real quick. And that one will always hold a special place in my heart. Insidious Beyond the Further would take it to another movie, of course. I think it was the third film this time around, and that was a really good one, especially with the oxygen masked demon. That was really terrifying. I remember that. And of course, that would go back in the Jurassic World queue. And yeah, all three of those Insidious mazes have been incredible. And I think, you know, that was the foundation of this relationship with Blumhouse and Halloween Horror Nights was Insidious. If not for that first Insidious maze, I don't think The Purge comes. I don't think, like, you know what I mean? Like, all these properties got opportunities because of Insidious. And, you know, Insidious set that boundary, and they set up that relationship with Blumhouse. And for the last 11 years, they've been coming back to the event, even if they take a year off or whatever what it is. But like, so far, it's been pretty consistent. And not only do they come, when they come through, they don't just bring one thing. Sometimes they'll bring multiple things, multiple properties. So it gives the fans of horror to experience more of their properties, to get to see them after you go to the event, to go home and watch them. I thought it was a really good marketing point for them as well, just to kind of brand these movies out there. So then we go to 2018, which was the first Purge and the Horrors of Blumhouse Chapter 2. I loved what they did with the first Purge. I know a lot of people aren't big fans of that film, but I really enjoyed the concept of it, to kind of show you how this all started and this kind of Staten Island experiment. I thought that was really cool. I think I have the brochure like right here from that year. They were giving out like brochures if you gave the passcode. Whoever remembers that back in the day, when you would give passcodes to certain characters and they would give you like exclusive stuff due to that maze. That was really cool. So that was a lot of fun. They did get a lot of great scenes and iconic scenes from that film to life. Some a little scary close, but they still did it. But nonetheless, it was a fun maze, and it was the first time the Purge would actually be its own maze, like haunted house. Like that was huge for the Purge, because prior to that, we only ever gotten it as Terror Tram and a scare zone. So to see the Purge be inside of its own house, that was really cool. I know a lot of people probably didn't like that one. I enjoyed it. From what I remembered, I thought they got a lot of scenes right, and there was a lot of cool creepy scenes if you go watch a lot of walkthroughs and stuff. So yeah, they did really good. The one that I wasn't too big of a fan of was the Horrors of Blumhouse Chapter 2, because they did Truth or Dare and Unfriended, and then they had an original ending based around the intro of Blumhouse, the old intro of the little girl and the chair spinning in the room and everything. I just thought the two properties that they used for this film, or this house, was not the best properties. I wasn't a big fan of Truth or Dare. I think that movie had just come out that year, so they were kind of trying to market that a little bit. And then Unfriended, I think they were coming out with Unfriended, the Dark Web, and so they were just trying to market that more. Unfriended already was going to be an interesting concept because the entire movie takes place within a Zoom call, a Skype call. So like, I was so curious to see how they were going to do it, and they managed to pull it off. I will say this: the demons that, or the characters, like the scary characters that they showed in each movie, they did look creepy. They did look scary. I just thought it wasn't the right execution as far as these two films goes, because Blumhouse has so many movies in their lineup of horror films. They could have chose literally any other two movies and I would have been happy, but these two unfortunately just did not do it for me, and I think a lot of people agree with that as well. All right, we would see them take a little bit of a break because they would not come in 2019. Obviously, we saw what happened in 2020, and we would return back in 2021 with Terror Tram: The Ultimate Purge, which would be, of course, a tribute, an homage to every single Purge film that had come out to date. And I think the Forever Purge was just going to be released that year. So what they did is they kind of did like a whole tram that was based off some of the most iconic looks from the entire Purge franchise. And of course, a great marketing opportunity to market the Forever Purge film that was coming out that year. So they did the Ultimate Purge, which was its own Terror Tram. A lot of fun. You got to see a lot of the new costumes and designs from the new film, as well as a lot of fan favorites and original costumes and stuff that you saw in the original film. So that was a lot of, it was kind of going down like a little trip through memory lane. So that was a lot of fun. 2022, we would take it a step even further, bringing back what I thought was probably one of the most ballsiest moves, and they executed it so perfectly, which was the Horrors of Blumhouse Chapter 3, and that would include The Black Phone and Freaky. Now, these two movies were fantastic. Now, I think the biggest worry about this one was how they were going to do The Black Phone, because the majority of the film takes place in one room, but that's no challenge to Halloween Horror Nights because they created an Exorcist maze, so it's another fun challenge for you, and they executed it brilliantly. Freaky, it started off with Freaky, and I think if anyone has seen Freaky, there was a lot of content to work with in that film, and they did that amazing. And then you transitioned into The Black Phone, which I thought was executed perfectly. Safe to say, Horrors of Blumhouse Chapter 3 in 2022 really redeemed that property. And ever since then, honestly, I've been waiting for another Horrors of Blumhouse. I hope they do another one soon. If Murdy wants to kind of do them, like spread them out every like 4 or 5 years, that'd be awesome. That way we have a couple movies that you could stack up. But yeah, I think that was a perfect example of like two great slasher / thriller horror films that really worked within the Horrors of Blumhouse formula. Bravo to that one. 2023 would, I think, take it to another level for not only Blumhouse being at the event, but overall just the Purge in general. Now, we've seen the Purge in a scare zone. That's where it originated from. We've seen the Purge in a terror tram multiple times, and that really elevated it to the next level right there. The Purge finally would get its own gauntlet first, and that really was kind of like its own little maze, which would really elevate it. It would be part of the Horrors of Blumhouse Chapter 1 in its little section right there, and it would go on to even get its own maze with the first Purge. Now, the only thing left for the Purge at this point was a show. And the only venue suitable to hold said show would be the Waterworld stage. And they came up with this brilliant idea to do a Purge Dangerous Waters stunt show. Kind of has the same formula to Waterworld a little bit, just because it's kind of easy to run off that formula, especially with that stage designed for that show and everything. So they kind of built the show around that formula that you see during the day for Waterworld. Great show. They kind of had the NFFA members kind of hiding in the middle of the ocean while the Purge was going on. But of course it got crashed and the revolution began, and tons of twists and turns. I won't get into the nitty gritty of it, but definitely go check it out if you guys are attending Halloween Horror Nights at least once. It was a really good show. I thought the stunts were great. So bravo to the stunt team, and bravo to taking that Purge property to the next level. At this point, the Purge has done everything there is to be done at Halloween Horror Nights. I don't know what else you can do more of the Purge. I'm pretty sure there's going to be things that they figure out in the future if more content of the Purge comes out, but Purge has literally capped its thing to do literally everything at Halloween Horror Nights, and I think it's the only Blumhouse property thus far that it has done everything at Halloween Horror Nights, from scare zones to houses to shows, you name it, it's done it now. There would be another show that would be in the DreamWorks Theater that year in 2023 as well, called Blumhouse Behind the Screams, and it would take you through the fall lineup of what was coming soon to theaters with Blumhouse. At the time, I believe they were marketing big time. Was, I believe, Five Nights at Freddy's was the biggest marketing film on that lineup, but there was a couple films coming out, and they were just kind of doing a little showcase of Blumhouse. In the lobby, they had actual costumes and props and things from different Blumhouse films on display for your enjoyment to look at, take pictures, all that stuff. The performance itself was really cool. At the end, there was a Megan cameo, Megan coming out, doing the dance, everything. It was a lot of fun. I think a very good show, and I think we were like one of the only people that actually filmed that show, so it's on YouTube. I think there's a couple other people that filmed it, but yeah, it's on YouTube, so go check that out as well. 2024, we would see the return once again of Insidious, but this time it would just be called The Further, and it would be based on every single Insidious movie thus far, including the latest installment. It was a decent maze, wasn't too bad. I would say not my favorite out of all the ones that have been there. I would say this is probably the bottom of the list when it comes to it. However, that being said, there were a lot of cool moments and scenes from the new movie that I never got to see, which I really enjoyed. And then to kind of reminisce on some of those old scenes was really cool. The smells were disgusting, especially the throw up scene in the bathroom. If you know, you know. But overall, solid maze. Probably not my favorite Insidious maze, but also not my favorite that year as well. But then you would have Terror Tram enter the Blumhouse, and that would be a compilation. In my opinion, was a really solid Terror Tram last year. A lot of people didn't like it. A lot of people didn't like the whole Megan scene-to-scene thing. I thought that was really cool because you got to see like all these infamous scenes from Megan as you're walking through. I get it, you want to get scared, but like how else are you supposed to pull off scenes like that? I mean, that's Universal. This is what they do, and I think they did it, executed it perfectly, that Megan section to start with. And then of course you go through the Bates Motel. The first half is freaky. That was a lot of fun to see. And of course you see the grabber in the last half, which the black phone, that was really cool. And then the last half, I think, was The Purge, which was obviously always a fun time with The Purge. It fits the War of the Worlds sets so well. So overall, just a great Terror Tram. I didn't get to do the VIP RIP experience, but I know Rob did, and I think we put it on our channel last year. But there was a couple of photo ops with Megan. There was supposed to be like a Wolfman section, but I don't think they ever got to finish it. And then I think they got to do like some the Us stuff, or the Nope sets, and you know, the Us and everything. They got to walk that. So yeah, Blumhouse has been at Halloween Horror Nights now for 11 years. They've had a relationship. You see properties come in and out of the event. Mostly it's been The Purge and Insidious, but every now and then you'll see something different. This year we have, of course, a terror tram based around the 15 years of Blumhouse, entitled Terror Tram Enter the Blumhouse. The most terrifying Blumhouse villains of the past 15 years are taking over. Face, the Grabber Beyond the Grave, a Lethal Megan, and more. Gonna be a lot of cool cameos, a lot of cool characters. I cannot wait to see what they do with this terror tram. It's already looking pretty good. They're building a lot of it right now, and the layout looks fantastic, so I cannot wait to see what they do with that. On top of it, the most fan-requested maze of all time is coming to Halloween Horror Nights this year, and that is Five Nights at Freddy's. I'm so excited to even see what we're going to come face-to-face with. I'm 6'6". Okay? These animatronics are 8 foot. I'm going to be intimidated. It's going to be a fun time. I can't wait to see what they do with that. I was a big fan of what they did with the film, so I cannot wait to see what they accomplish with this maze. And this just continues Blumhouse's legacy over at Halloween Horror Nights. And I have a feeling that this is just the beginning. This is just the first 11. Only the first 15 for Blumhouse Horror Studios. What's to come in the future? Now, I didn't even get to talk about what they've done in Orlando, because they've done a couple different other things in Orlando that were exclusive to Orlando. They've done one thing in Japan, but they've touched over in Japan. Blumhouse is here to stay, and I cannot wait to see what they release in the future as far as horror movies go, because they're always constantly evolving and getting more things and taking it to the next level. And I can't wait to see what they do at Halloween Horror Nights with Blumhouse and this continued relationship. But what are you most excited for? What did you like as far as Blumhouse being at Halloween Horror Nights for the last 11 years? What has been your favorite Blumhouse property that has come to Halloween Horror Nights in the last 11 years? Leave it in the comments down below. Let me know. I'd love to hear your guys's your favorites from the last 11 years of Blumhouse. An extensive history with the history of Blumhouse at Halloween Horror Nights. And next week, we get to see that history continue with the Terror Tram Enter the Blumhouse and Five Nights at Freddy's in Hollywood. I will see you guys next week, but I'll see you guys tomorrow for Know Before You Go, right here on the Nights of Horror. Stay spooky.